Now let's move on to the next session on the theme of circular economy in action, transforming consumption and waste management for a sustainable future. The panelists for this session are Mr. Suri Quek, Carousel Group co-founder and CEO. Ms. Lina Sakai, Ferment Station CEO. Mr. Tommy Tjiptadjaja, Green Hope co-founder and CEO. This session will be moderated by Ms. Akira Sakano, Zero Waste Japan Representative Director. Ms. Sakano, the floor is yours.
Okay, so thank you very much for joining this session. Good afternoon to everyone. I hope our mic is working enough. I hear lots of big sounds around this. But yeah, thank you very much for joining again, and then welcome to the circular economy stage. So I'm Akira Sakano. I'll quickly introduce myself to give a context of why I'm moderating this session. So I myself actually have 3 different hats. The first one is as introduced Zero Waste Japan, which actually we work together with the municipal government, local government specifically, with the community members to try to implement zero waste policies in practices in the local ground. But we always face the challenges of engaging more people. Actually, implementation takes a long time, and all the stakeholders' agreement takes time, and so on. So actually, the community-based practice takes time, as you can all imagine, right? At the same time, the second hat, so I decided we're gonna invest more into the people. So, if there's more people who's willing to lead the innovation for transformation towards including circular economy, or you can make it as a green transformation as a whole. But so how can we actually, equip that? Then we started the academy called Green Innovator Academy, to have 6 months long program to recruit both young professionals and university students so that they can be equipped with the skills and knowledge and perspectives so they can start working in various fields. And with that said, I still thought that it still takes time to, of course, empower the people, develop the people. At the same time, to actually make it into the practice as a long run. So the third hat is actually the business. So the startup I joined actually 3 years ago is called Ecomit. And it's the one actually trying to build a circular economy infrastructure throughout Japan. So we do the collection, sorting, and redistribution of post-consumer goods. So if you want to, get rid of your stuff that's still functionable, but if you don't want to use it anymore, then you can pass it on to our platforms, which is called Pasto. So it means pass to someone else. So with owning all that hats that I have, I've been trying to practice how can we accelerate this transition even faster, especially in Japan and of course globally. Then I always feel that of course multi-sectorial collaboration is the key. At the same time, lots of innovation needs to happen at the same time. So with that said, I'd love to kind of discuss from different perspectives of different representatives from very leading transitioning companies from Asia today, and to kind of bring up what they have been challenging, what they have been achieved, but at the same time, what else we should be doing to engage everyone here to join the transition towards a circular economy. So, thank you very much for joining today. And then first, I'd like to give a floor to one by one to our speakers to kind of introduce themselves and then to also their business itself. So let's start with Tommy. So thank you very much for joining. Please put up the slide. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Akira-san, and thank you for all of you being here. Thank you for inviting us here. Green Hope is Indonesia-based. We are a material innovation company with a mission of helping to convert the world's production and consumption to be sustainable. Particularly the material we're targeting is plastics. As we all know, plastic is one of the miracle materials that we all use extensively everywhere. but having it once they become a waste, it's such a challenging thing to do. So me and my co-founder actually have been researching for more than 15 years now, where we research, develop, and IP it. So we patented our own biodegradable and bio-based material resins. And then we create an integrated business model. So think of us like if Intel and AMD inside for CPU, for computer, we are the inside chip for environmentally friendly plastics. Now, the applications can be more than 40 so far. Then we're targeting specifically the applications that are not economically viable to be recycled. So as we know, reduction of plastics, reuse, recycling is all part of the solutions. But particularly, even more so in developing countries, a lot of the items are net negative if you try to save it. So that in that context, biodegradable as well as bio-based to shift towards lower carbon is part of the solutions. We are looking for collaboration partners in many of the countries we're in. Right now we're in ASEAN. We export all the way to Central America. And now we are here. We're looking for partners in Japan and beyond. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Tommy. Is there any specific industry that you are targeting right now to collaborate?
So far, our capabilities, we are downstream exposed to hotel, restaurant, cafe, and then also agriculture. We are open. We just had discussion there on the water treatment and waste separation for diaper, for instance. So there's a lot of potential, but we are upstream technology company, so we need collaboration with innovator downstream who specify with us to us what's the business case, what is the target affordability price, what is the performance parameters. So it's all about collaboration together.
Yeah, thank you very much. The collaboration is definitely one of the key elements. So thank you, Tommy. And then Lina, please.
Thank you for your introduction. Hello, everyone. I'm Lina, founder and CEO of a startup called Fermentation. I'm based in Japan, but now trying to do more business out of Japan too. So as the name Fermentation shows, we are good with fermentation, good with the microorganisms. And what we do is we're trying to solve the social issues such as the food security or the waste management, and also the shift from petrol to non-petrol. So what we do is we work with large corporations making food and beverage, and we take their food waste, side streams, and with our technology, the database of the enzyme and the microbiome, we transfer into biomaterial that you can use for food, beverage, cosmetics, and fragrance and stuff like that. And maybe it's easier to show you what we actually this. Maybe people in Japan may notice this is a product Chuhai of Takara Corporation. And what's in it is, Takara is one of the largest alcohol beverage company, but what they did is they're using our ingredients, which is upcycled from the certain kind of citrus peels that keeps nice flavor, not just sustainable, but trying to give functional benefits. So this is the kind of things that we are doing right now, and so happy to be here.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much, Lina. So does it actually smell like citrus flavor, kind of?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And actually, there are 4 types, like plain, lemon, grape, and ume. But everything includes our ingredients.
Wow.
Yes,
that's exciting.
Right. Yes.
Actually, it tastes good, so you should try. Yes, thank you very much, Lina.
Yeah.
I believe everyone has lots of questions, but let us move on to Siru. Yeah, thank you.
Now I wish we had this drink as the speaker's drink.
Yeah,
I want to reach over and open it. So my name is Sure, one of the co-founders of a company called Carousel. We are the leading re-commerce platform from Greater Southeast Asia. I'm Singapore-based, but we serve tens of millions of users across the markets. And our mission at Carousel really is to make secondhand the first choice. Our belief is all of us in this room has stuff in our life that's underutilized and unused that should benefit someone else. It should not just end up in the landfills. And if you need something, why not consider secondhand, right? Because you save money, it's fully functional, you get something unique, and you save the environment in the process. So what we do at Carousel really is to make buying and selling secondhand very simple. We started with a C2C platform that allows you to snap, list, and sell your item. But along the way, we've also added more ways for people to sell. So you can actually sell it to us, we buy it back from you, we will check the items, and we resell them as certified items so that people can also buy it with peace of mind. We are also now engaging users offline. So the group has evolved from just a pure C2C platform to many different ways to buy and sell secondhand, all in the hope of trying to encourage a lot more of a sustainable consumption and really driving the circular economy. So very, very excited to be learning from my panelists today and engaging with everyone here.
Great, thank you very much. Then I think all the Japanese audience know Mercari as a second-hand C2C commerce, and then that's what exactly Cyril is doing widely in Asian regions, right? So just for you to understand better. But yeah, thank you very much everyone for the very quick introduction, so we have time. And then in the end, I try to open up the floor for your questions. So if you have any, please keep it in your mind. Let's start a bit of the dialogue. So starting with Tommy, so now you introduced that your focus now is tapioca. I mean, why you started with the tapioca with all this variety of potential alternative sources you might have?
Yes, thank you. Fighting plastic pollution is a very challenging task.
Yes.
Part of the problem is because plastic, once it becomes a waste, it's such a low value items, oftentimes becomes net effort negative to try to preserve it. So a lot of efforts been done on downstream, post-consumer, right? Recycling, thermal incineration, and all those things. Those are all very appropriate efforts,
Yes.
So to speak. But not enough being done in terms of researching the upstream on the material side. If we were to ask ourselves in the beginning, what is the better behaving materials that should be part of our future? So that's the kind of questions that we're asking. And a couple of, the upstream approach is very promising because if we can do the engineering, the science correctly, and then it's a matter of B2B process. We work with a lot of the B2B converters producing straws, shopping bag, garbage bag, mulch films, rigid plastic, many different types of plastics. So the conversion is much more rapidly rather than the downstream collecting the post-consumer waste. Both sides need to happen at the same time. So we are starting that effort on upstream. And when we look into what is the better behaving materials of the future, sourcing from indigenous crops is key parameters because the future will be a lot of regional supply chain. What are the indigenous crops that has higher yield? It's important because when we talked about replacing plastic, it's a lot of times it's commodity, it's very, very price sensitive. You use it like very short time and then it becomes a waste. So what are the, tapioca cassava is one of the native crops in Southeast Asia. Yes. Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia, everybody grows it. And there are many, many different types. Even the high cyanide that is not for eating also available.
Oh.
So the starch content is very high, and let me show you a little fun fact. We all love our cassava chips in Indonesia, but it's never been our main crops because cassava has high starch content, but relatively lower nutritional value. In other words, it can really make you fat fairly quickly.
I see.
If you list the different biodiversity that we're blessed with,
Right.
there's rice, there's corn, there's sugar, everything else.
Yes.
A lot more nutrition. So our impact model, we're actually a social entrepreneur, we're a social enterprise. I have very much social impact in my heart. How to drive environmental impact married with social impact at the supply side. So we are certified Fair for Life by a Swiss organization by ensuring we pay our farmers, cooperative in Indonesia, premium. And because our IP-driven technology is of higher value-add conversion, so we can afford to pay them premium. And the downstream, we work with a lot of the users, become cassava straw, shopping bag, and all those other items, so that when you consume, it's not negative to the environment, but at the same time, you pull this social impact on the upstream with the farmers. And our idea is that our farmers don't only need carbohydrates, right? So if we pay them more, they can buy their proteins. Because, brain growth and everything is about eating protein, fish and chicken and also. So we have an integrated impact model. And think about our technology as just, yes, it's targeting plastic waste pollution, but it's really about impact delivery platform to connect the upstream and downstream consumption pattern. Yeah.
Interesting. That's very interesting. Thank you very much for explaining. So as Tommy just mentioned, that when we consider about the circular economy, normally we start maybe thinking from, how do we collect, materials from the market, how do we circulate. But when we are to actually design the circular economy, always we need to really redefine the production side, how to design the product itself from the beginning. Otherwise, some material do not circulate anyway, right? So that's why both sides is important. At the same time, actually considering the design from the beginning is definitely the key. So that's definitely where you are contributing. So thank you very much. And then actually together, Tommy and Lina is working on the material side, or more of the where I'm not that familiar with the area, so scientific area. But definitely Rina's business is not specifically focusing on the material itself, but the process of fermentation of the material, so which is very unique, I believe. And then I'd love to understand how you started that idea of your business. At the same time, who are your target industry right now, and then why they are the target for that process? Yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you for your question. First, how I started and why we were doing business like this. Back like 20 years ago, yeah, I used to work for a bank. I was in finance, but then one day I realized that there are so many like food waste that you see, and also I was also involved in the project finance and the alternative energy. And then I wanted to do the job, but actually I didn't know much about the technology and business, so I thought maybe I should learn from the technology itself. So I quit bank and entered the college again to learn about all the fermentation to basically to start a business.
And would you mind speaking a little bit up because of all
Oh,
this?
okay, yeah. Hold on.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Yeah.
So the original idea was to do something with the waste, and I didn't really have the target, what I can make. But but first I started from making the biofuel. So anything, all kinds of waste biofuel. But it was 20 years ago. It turned out that it doesn't make much money. But still, I really liked my idea that to do something with the waste.
Yeah.
And then I started talking. I have this technology that can transfer the waste into alcohol, the ethanol. Then I thought, alcohol can be also made for not just for energy, but for other purposes. So that's when I started with the idea to turn all kinds of waste into something useful. So I didn't have any intention for starting material and the end product. So basically it's a platform. So for the 20 years, I've been trying to have this platform, the idea, how we can transfer all these stuff. And right now, we are focusing on started from the cosmetics, because the value is higher and startups, so the unit price can be really high. So we started from that industry and then moving also expanding to the food and beverage. The market is really big, and realize that if you make big amount, the unit price can be lower, of course, and succeeded to make it not too expensive because, for example, this drink is not that expensive at all. It's like $1 to $1.5 you can buy it.
Yeah.
So that's where it's shifting. Yeah. Right now.
Interesting. Thank you so much. Also, I kind of understood that you are contributing to the industries by providing certain, solutions for them to start transitioning or start doing something for like circular production or circular product itself. How do you define maybe your impact to transition your customer as an industry?
Yeah, thank you. I love the question because we work a lot with large corporations, and most of the corporations right now we work with have really nice, I can say, mindset. Want to do something with their waste or try something, the new material, not depending on the petrol-derived stuff. But sometimes we have to let people change the mindset. So people may come to us saying that, oh, maybe we can add a nice SDG stories, or might be able to have something that's good for the press release or PR. But actually, it's so super.
Surface.
Yeah. So it's not deep enough. But we, the more we do this, sometimes they make small products, and they realize that how good reception that they get, and also, sometimes it achieves to change their mindset. And now we were even hoping that, because we start from using their waste, but actually it's not waste for us. So ideally, I'm hoping that as we keep on doing, maybe when the like a food or beverage company start their own factory from the beginning, they should change how they treat the residue or the waste. So right now, most of the factories, all the waste go to the dust box. And if it's dust, and no, it's waste because it goes there. But what happened was when we work with the large beverage company, it's actually the apple residue. They scrape apple, all the residues go there. But we realized that there is like a button that they have never pushed before, and they tried it, and then it went like backward.
Oh, right.
So that was like really the big moment for us. That was exactly the moment that this thing became waste, but we stopped that from turning into something useful, and actually we are buying from them. So hoping that that kind of shift will happen more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's a big, big sentence. We put things backwards to think things backwards, and that's where the circular economy kind of design starts, I believe.
Yeah.
So how you're transitioning, the big corporation even is a quite much encouragement for everyone, I believe. Then I believe this time all the speakers today is kind of acting like enablers for the markets, for the businesses, for the society to kind of transition the circular economy. So still, in your case, you are definitely pushing the second-hand market. And how are you already see your business contributing for the transition, for maybe for of course to the consumers or even to the business market by pushing more second-hand as a market option.
I like this discussion, and I find the anecdotes very familiar, and I resonate so much of it in changing mindsets and changing behavior. And in many ways, when we first started Carousel, like our goal was to just solve a problem, even our own problem. We grew up buying and selling on existing platforms, on desktop forums and classified sites, but we still found like we were not selling as often. We had all these underutilized items just sitting around, collecting dust, and we thought, hey, how nice it would be for them to be circulating in the economy. And for us, we started very, very simply with making it very, very trivial to sell items, right? You could just take a photo, put a title and a price, and get it circulating, and people can discover them and actually buy them. One interesting thing is that when we started about 13 years ago, most people who we asked on why they buy second-hand items was very much functional. They just wanted to save money. They want something unique, but that's it. Like, you don't hear so much about the environment. But as the years go by, what we found is that consumers are becoming more discerning. We started polling our users about, are you actually consuming secondhand more? And actually more than half of the people were saying, year after year, they're actually consuming more and more secondhand. And we wanted to find out why. And turns out that actually a good number of people are now a bit more conscious about climate change. They are
Good news.
more conscious about their own impact to the environment. And that's very heartening. But I would say the first 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I didn't hear so much of that. And we're hearing more of that now. And I think it's because of this mega discussion. The fact that we're having a circular economy panel, I think is helping that.
Yeah.
I think it's helping that the governments are making this an agenda. Because of that, corporates are making this an agenda. And consumers are also making it a conversation. And I think that's helping to change mindsets. And for us, our job is to remove friction in selling and buying, using technology, using actually physical stores, and so on and so forth. Our main goal is to just remove friction systematically in each step of the way. And we're just so heartened to see this mega trend happening. And we're here to just kind of spin it a little bit harder. We don't take credit for all of it, but we just want to help as much as we can. Yeah.
That's exciting. That's very exciting because I'm also, partially working in the business of doing the second-hand
correct, yeah.
transaction, and then I hear from the, our customers who's actually, pass to someone else to bring their clothing to our collection box or something like that. they start doing that maybe because it's maybe slightly better option comparing to just dispose to incinerator options. But once they start doing something, then they start to consider maybe maybe I should consider when I buy products, not just when we dispose. So that's actually the survey feedback we started to receive. So that kind of mindset starts from maybe taking action in the beginning. Maybe even the incentive was just for the money, getting points or something like that. But after you're doing the action, maybe people's mindset might follow. Then that's a kind of good practice of maybe start buying some product like that. Start choosing more better alternative materials. That can follow. So I think that's a good hope here in the society, I hope.
Yeah, I totally
Yeah.
agree. Like, I think it really starts with that first action, which is why a lot of what we do is try and really reduce the friction to even get started. And what we found is that when people sell their first item or they buy their first, second item, they're like, why didn't I do this earlier? and I think that because there's a stigma, right? They just didn't think
Right.
about it in the first place.
Exactly.
So I think a lot of what we are trying to do is just get them started. And in many ways, they don't even think about this as a sustainable product. It just like makes a lot of sense for us to be consuming these items, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you very much,
Yeah.
Theory. So I believe that both Tommy and Lina are in the phase for kind of expanding your business to more into the market, maybe globally more. What are the challenges that now you face for not only maybe expansion but to drive your business further?
I think I resonate very, very strongly with Sirui also. The
Yes.
trend is that on the consumer side, they're absolutely asking for more and more better behaving products, right? In terms of carbon footprint, in terms of what is the brand represents actually to the future. Our next generation really asking for it. So that one becoming less challenge on the consumer side. They're actually demanding it. But to me, sometimes the mindset, there are two mindsets. One is first is coming from the business side themselves, right? The supply chain in the business here, the value creation business. Do they want to start listening to the customers? Do they really want to be the leader in the new markets, in the green, more sustainable world, or they want to be a follower? Sometimes people just want to be follower and waiting for the government to do stuff, waiting for others to do stuff, but it's actually an opportunity as much as it is a risk. Yes, it's a risk. If we don't do this, our planet will fall, and our microplastics already in placenta, in mother's milk, in you and I, we're drinking microplastics. It's everywhere. So the case is very clear. So the consumers are asking for it. Can we, on the supply chain side, work together and make the economics work? And then turn it into an advantage as a first mover, as a leading examples. And I'm pretty sure from the segments we've been and targeting, we are there. If we are 7 years ago, 10 years ago, I would say right technology, right solution, wrong timing. But right now, everybody's asking for it. It's just a matter of how to serve it, but it does need a creative approach.
Okay.
Because, for instance, we are collaborating with converters producing the finished products, right? And some of these converters are old school people. They always challenge us, Aru, Tommy-san, I can't sell to this so-and-so brand because they're very price sensitive. In fact, the sales team themselves they are price sensitive and don't have the confidence to do it. I'm like, okay, why don't my team sell your products? My team will take away from your factories. We consume all the capacity. Some of them now we occupy 30%, 40% of their finished product capacity because my factory is selling the raw materials, right? The chip and the technology. They're selling the finished products. So my team members and I am leading the charge. We can convince brand by brand. Even brands that are serving mid-segment and low segment of the economy. They can change. And if they can change, they consume biodegradable bioplastics for their shopping bag, for their polymailer bags, for their cups. These are stuff that can never be recycled effectively. Then all the guys in the midstream, the factories, we're missing something. So then things starts to move. So we're excited about that. We hope more people change their mindset, that the timing is now. The second mindset that can be challenging is amongst the greenies themselves, or people who claim that we are in the green space and sustainability space.
Okay.
Because sometimes we tend to be overzealous. We think that our solution is the best solution for all. Everybody else's solution is greenwashing. I think that kind of
Yeah,
conversation, I find it counterproductive.
that's true.
Because at the end of the day, each of us has our homework. Bio-based material, biodegradable have our homework. We need to define under what conditions it will biodegrade. What is the scientific evidence that it is less carbon, truly, and truly circular? Recycling needs to define, make sure the water effluent doesn't contain microplastic, the processing. You know, for the incineration, what is the CO2 emission and all those make sure net positive, right? Every solution has their own homework still. And two is every solution has their own optimality when applied to different contexts.
Right.
If a logistic cost is 17% in Southeast Asian country or Indonesia, and logistic cost in a European country is 5%, the cost of reverse logistic to collect back and recycle makes so much different in terms of economic viability of that solution. So having that local context and appreciation that all the R is actually an important piece of the puzzle for us to make it together and collaborate together. Those are more productive discussion rather than, oh, you're right, I'm wrong, I'm right, you're wrong, and stuff like that. I'm better than you and stuff. So that's a not productive mindset because then the status quo always wins. Yeah.
Definitely.
We have to be together.
Definitely, collaboration always the key. So it's the repeated statement, definitely. At the same time, I always feel that sometimes, as I said, that sometimes consumers demand for the business to do better. At the same time, business always say that there's no consumer demand, so it's always like finger pointing kind of argument sometimes. So it's better that we actually bring the trial in market first and then test it out. So all the mindset follows as we just discussed.
Yeah,
as well.
if I may add one more point.
Yes.
There has to be demand. Like in Indonesia, for instance, a beach in Bali, and you can call any beaches here, not only in Bali, the plastic waste from the ocean comes every 1 month, for instance. Suddenly, a few years later, now every 2 weeks. And then every 1 week. The livelihood of our Balinese brothers and sisters completely decimated. So it's a problem that won't go away until we solve it. Or to be more precise, the problem will only get bigger until we solve it. We can't just ignore it and it will just go on. No, it will only get bigger until we solve it. So we need the reuse, we need the recycle, we need the return to earth, the biodegradable, we need everybody to start doing it. And it is a business opportunities. Yeah, just to be very clear, it's not charity. No. We can't solve this with charity mindset. It has to be economically viable and can be profitable. Maybe not at the initial scale, but has to be there.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's very empowering too. So, Lina, what's your call for the challenges? I mean, what would you put it up as a counter measure?
There are like so many challenges around startups. The team, funding, everything. But in addition to what just Tommy said, I can't agree more. But for us, definitely working together with large corporations is definitely key because they can sometimes have a large voice. And to add a different perspective, last week in France, there is a big event, Change Now, and I heard a really interesting thing, the greenwashing and green hashing. And green hashing was something I have never heard of, but yeah, I know. But people, the large corporations are so much worried about greenwashing. Maybe not much in Japan yet, but there are so many people with lots of knowledge, and sometimes you get criticized. So they're overreacting, getting so scared. So even though they're doing multiple things, they don't say.
Right.
So that's called green hashing. So, all the things that they're doing, if they don't say it, I don't say it doesn't mean anything because they're actually doing it, but still we have to do lots of upgrade and educations. But if it's not going to happen, I thought it's a big issue. So the conclusion was not there, but we were talking that we should also focus on the fact so that be able to avoid, and also we have to have courage to face all the criticism you may have. So that was pretty interesting. It's not like my challenge, but the challenge to the industry.
I see. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So greenwashing definitely is one agenda, but at the same time, considering that too much, it's always right. Considering too much in any like direction is always cause of the challenges as well. But yeah, so Silu, so in your second-hand business market, I mean, since you operate in different countries, even within Southeast Asia, so maybe the approach might varies and like maybe the good practices, good case practices might varies. But is there any like good like success stories or success push from maybe the policymakers or any other elements that you feel this should be in place in other countries as well, kind of things?
Yeah, I like my fellow panelists talking about how we need to do the homework, we need to contribute, like there's all these things about greenwashing and whatnot. But I think we cannot argue that this conversation is still a net drive, positive drive forward for the circular economy. The fact that we again have this panel, have these criticisms, but I think all of us, as I was talking to my fellow panelists earlier, all of us have been doing this for at least a decade or more.
Yeah.
And I think if we are true to the mission and the purpose and we authentically execute against it, I think we can overcome all these challenges about greenwashing and hopefully eventually show tangible impact that we are creating for society. In terms of like what are we seeing in Southeast Asia, in Singapore, in what's fueling this? I do feel that respective governments in Singapore, be in ASEAN, I think the conversation about the circular economy is definitely there. I think it's helping to a certain extent. I'd say it's a little bit more progressive in some of the Western markets, for instance. So, for instance, like for us in doing our homework recently, one of the things that we experienced was people did not associate buying and selling secondhand with sustainability. It's kind of odd initially. And so we thought like, okay, let's do our part and do our own homework. So whenever you buy secondhand, there's a good chance that you're replacing the need to buy brand new items. So what we wanted to do was to actually put our homework behind a scientific approach to say, how is this actually contributing to the environment when you buy secondhand? So we worked with a European climate tech company called Vayu, who uses a methodology from the World Resource Institute. And we took our secondhand transactions, mapped it against the product avoided emissions of a new item being created, and actually computed the secondhand carbon impact from our own platform. And it actually added up to about 150,000 tons of avoided emissions from the various secondhand transactions they have in a year. And that's about 9 million trees absorbing CO2 every year. So that's our way of saying, okay, there's some things happening from the government, but as a platform of meaningful scale, can we also add to that conversation? Can we also try and fuel this with a science-based approach? And it may not be perfect, but at least we're starting from somewhere and collaborating with other ecosystem players as well. So that's, I think, one of the things that we're seeing is not just a pure top-down government thing, but corporates, startups, and the community actually fueling this together. And I think that's something that we're very hopeful to see propagate in the rest of the world as well.
Oh, that's great. I mean, were there any response once you published that impact from the market or from the government even, or other businesses?
Actually, it's very interesting. What we are seeing now is that there's more and more corporates who are thinking about this, especially those who have a Western presence. I think they're really very, very forward-thinking. Many brands in the Western markets have now created their own second-hand arms. They collect back items through trade-in programs, and they actually resell certified second-hand items under their own label. And actually, one of the very progressive brands, after when we announced this whole report, we attracted the attention of a company called Decathlon. It's a European-based sports brand, and they're really, really big into this whole idea of sustainable consumption. So they're starting to make products with a lot more sustainable materials. And two, they are very much forward-thinking in having a collect-back program, as well as they have a program called Second Life to resell these items that they collect back.
Yeah.
And so they brought this model to Southeast Asia, and actually we are one of their key partners to actually facilitate these collections of second-hand bikes or second-hand sporting equipment, and we actually are a channel for them to resell their Second Life items as well. So I think the more we associate with sustainability and share with people our impact and our mission, we're going to attract like-minded brands. But unfortunately, I think it's still quite limited to some of these more Western-centric brands. they're Western-centric brands. Local teams are also taking a while to catch up, but I think it's inevitable. For us, we're playing a very long game. We'll do our part to try and advocate for this, remove friction in making selling and buying secondhand simple, and actually just make sure that we stay associated with this positioning and stay true to our mission. Yeah.
Great, thank you very much. Definitely, I can't agree more for that expansion. And then I also feel that right now, for example, the apparel companies, right? They don't just sell first new products, but they started to realize that collect and then resell the second-hand products of their own brand actually makes their sales bigger on top of the new products, right? So that's definitely the entrance for their circular economy business model. So that's a good call. So now we have 5 minutes left, kind of. So I'd like to open the floor for any burning questions, if you have any. Anyone? Yes, please. Is there any mic possibly given to him? Let's see. Please raise your hand again. Yeah, thank you very much.
Hi, it's James from Fabric. Akira-san, Lina-san, nice to see you again. Thanks so much. It's been a fascinating talk. My question is about tipping points. I often hear that government regulation is needed to create that in Japan in some areas. If anyone wants to pick that one up. But maybe on the retail side, you were talking about how if you can control the channel, and in your mind, second hand is the first choice, like brilliant phrase, by the way, that becomes a tipping point. But do any of you feel a tipping point coming? And if so, what are the drivers?
Okay, great. Anyone? Yeah. You want to go first?
From our experience, I think I'm in the plastic space, right? And next generation materials. I would say the last 3 years has been quite phenomenal. And it's got less, people thought, okay, will COVID throw this sustainability story off track? Or with crisis throw this sustainability story off track? But I believe that what's key is that climate disasters and plastic waste pollution is experiential stuff now. It's not academic debates, right? The amount of disasters and the severity of disasters and also the record high of temperature, the plastic waste pollution in our babies, that's in people's mind. When they see their kitchen, they see their fish, it's no longer the same. So from our experience is that even the brands that are targeting the middle and low income markets, they're actually converting a lot of the stuff into greener. Even within, if you have premium like 10, 15%, they can still afford it. So net, they think the increase of new consumer access with the higher brand equity and positioning is still better than the cost side. But we do need to find a lot of the internal champions within those corporations. And some of the little tricks we have sometimes is it's not necessarily the market leader who will convert first, because they see less upside, but more. But it's going to be the number 2, number 3, number 4 that will want and more hungry. And we see that segment by segment, people are converting just because it's in the news every day. And if you'll be surprised how many of their kids, they always tell me, these managers, my kids come home and say, Dad, what are you doing about this plastic problem? I read it in school and I understand it in school. And that puts him in a difficult position. So for us in the plastic waste pollution space, we are in the middle of it. That's what I can share from all our growth and real commercial encounters one by one. Yeah.
Great, thank you very much. Any additional comments from your side?
But I see it. I don't have like really clear one yet, but I'm seeing the big changing because I've been doing this 16 years and nobody really appreciated it. But definitely, as just Tommy said, the fact that the people are seeing the climate change, it's really, I feel that impacting not just the individual but the corporations and as a whole. But to make it really happen, especially for us, maybe the regulation or the law might also be helpful. because in Japan there is especially for food waste there is a law called recycle law, and it's recycle. No, it's not upcycle. So they don't have a choice to make good use of it. But of course, it was unavoidable because that time the technology was not there. But with all the technology and the mindset, I'm hoping that there will be the change on the regulations as well.
Definitely. Probably when we talk about the regulation, it's also challenges for the policymakers to kind of catch up with the, upcoming technologies, how it's already renewed and so on. Otherwise, normally the policy follows after, especially in Japan and maybe in Asian countries, but we should be the one kind of pitching towards that. But yeah, thank you very much. Still, anything for you for the final comments?
Nothing too much to add. I also share that I don't really have a tipping point number in mind, and we're not also just sitting around and waiting for some regulation for this to happen. And one thing that we often remind ourselves is that you gotta just do what you can control. And one of the things that, while I'm on the circular economy panel, we are very, very cognizant that consumers are going to choose secondhand not because it is actually good for the environment, but it's actually good for them specifically. It's good for their wallet. It's very functional. And I think we've led with that over the past 13 years. And for us, as a startup with finite resources, we just constantly want to build an enduring company and chip away 1% improvements day in, day out. And that's what we've been doing for the past 13 years and hope to do that over the next 13 years. And along the way, hopefully we'll catch that tipping point.
That's the best way to close.
Can I add just quickly on the regulation side?
Yeah.
I mean, if you do an AI search or something to tabulate the amount of regulations on tackling plastic waste pollution, at least here at national and local level, I would say it's exponential. And just because this problem is very tangible and concrete in their face. So the government is forced to solve it. So even earlier this year alone, I've got a few really brand name customers, brands in Indonesia. They say, look, some of the schools in certain area in Indonesia don't allow our products to come in anymore because it's wrapped in the environmentally friendly bread packaging or drink water, so single-use PET bottle, they don't allow it in schools anymore. So those kind of local regulation is happening right now and in daily basis. It can feel chaotic if we're not paying attention to it, but if we're in the space, then you see this is already happening, the tipping point. And that's because the government cannot afford not to do something about it. The people were asking.
Definitely.
That's so encouraging to hear.
Yeah, exactly, right? So yes, thank you very much for joining. And then we must close our very short session. But we will be getting out from that side. So if you want to follow our guest speakers, you can wait for them there, just for your information. And thank you very much for joining. And I believe that today's, all this sharing from all the speakers can be beneficial for your, of course, for the souls and of course your action. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, very good.